So especially at Northeastern, where
yeah, I know it's too crowded at Northeastern. Yeah, but the tax program I teach is online anyway. It's been online for 10 years, so we're not
has all those projects and so forth. I mean, I don't know how one can do that.
Yes.
But we built our economic by building jobs, right? So you build jobs like when they said, okay, let's lay the railroad. And of course, those are the low income jobs. But we can build jobs by saying we need to build more research labs. We need to build more test kit manufacturing facilities, because maybe we need to start testing every day like they're doing in the White House so people can get back to work. Testing every day is not a problem. They're doing it. People test their blood every day, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. So it's not dangerous. You just have to do it properly. But, I think these are things that we need to be doing, not talking about it, but doing it, right?
You could test all the students. Test the professors.
Test them every day. And then you isolate the problem and you isolate the flare-ups.
Testing might be the solution.
I think it is.
Arena.
Okay. I have a question, especially ma'am, Kimberly. Okay, especially you are women, and I'm actually doing research on glass ceiling factors. It's actually women empowerment and this kind of things. It's a hypothesis, like for a developing nations. Okay, I just want to learn. Okay, for a developing nations, like where India, like examples, Bangladesh and Pakistan and this kind of countries. In that situations, how women can more engage with these economical activities, like they can contribute in the economy, or they can generate income for their family. Is there any projects? Is there any possibility? Is there any strategy? I just want to know, because you have to understand the US economy and this kind of developing countries economy completely different. Culture-wise, different. But is there anything that we can learn from first world or adapted our, especially women?
Wow. So what I have to say in that area is probably very minimal. First off, what we need to do is take a look at the fact that most women are sent back home to be with their children. And there are a lot of fathers too, don't get me wrong. But we do suffer the most impact from situations like this. And what we need to do is take a look at how we can get the women back into employment, because a lot of women are self-sustained. Like they must be self-sustained in order to exist in the society, or they're dual income sustained. And so that's something that we do need to take a look at. Women are generally mostly expected to be at home with the children and teach them at this moment in time. And we've talked with a few women, but I don't know that this is a woman or man or any kind of, I think we need to set aside the prejudice and just figure out what we need to do to make the economics work again, and deal with the prejudice and empowerments later. But I think we just need to figure out what jobs are available, what we can do to help each other. Back in the days, many years ago, I used to think that they created war just to reestablish the economic situation and provide jobs. I hate saying it, but that's just what I think happened most of the time. Those wars generated jobs for women, and I think that will happen here again. I think that, but right now, I think that you're going to see more jobs for men, because it's going to be easier for men to go out and work. Just like the construction jobs, the construction industry has not just sustained, but it has grown, according to some of the conversations I've had recently. And those jobs are more for men. Even though women are out there working, they're male dominant. But we're just going to have to work together, and we're going to just have to help each other. What do you think, Professor Snyder?
Yes.
I'd like to bring it down to the individual level, like the question is going in that direction. So if I were young, it takes a little while to go through this thought process, but bear with me. If I were young, I would try to figure out what are the big trends and will they continue? And we talked about the anti-globalization narrative. My colleague at Yale, Stephen Roach, some of you may have heard of him, former vice chair of Morgan Stanley for Asia Pacific. He's been teaching at Yale for 20 years. been a big proponent of China and US. April 27th, he wrote, "The end of the US-China relationship." Well, wow. Now, does that mean, is that at the governmental level? What are the economic implications of that claimed end? Do you as an individual, a young person trying to chart your way through this, and Nick, you raised it. I mean, you graduate, what do? You
Yeah.
go to school and continue. But I would ask myself, do I believe that globalization is dead? Now, my answer would be no, of course not. I mean, this is sort of my hobby a little bit, but the Earth is 4.7 billion years old, and life on Earth is like 3.7 billion. And Homo sapiens, the last 300,000 years, started moving around. In our little window of time, it's a story of globalization and cooperation. And yeah, I think there are a lot of frictions, of course, but that just means there's no 6-lane highway from A to B. That makes it more interesting for the people who can figure it out. And I think that if I were young and faced with this dire economic picture, I would be trying to become better at global stuff, better at team stuff, better at listening, better at asking questions than anybody else. And it's just practice. I mean,
I totally concur.
There's no textbook on how do I become a great global team member.
Yeah, totally concur. And the opportunities globally are China's just not the only country in the world. As Ankit showed me, India also has 1.3 billion people, and Indians are nice enough to speak English. Rana isn't from Malaysia. They have 30 million people. And I told him, I said, look, in the US, it's hard to get information about Malaysia. They focus on Australia. In other words, we see things on Australia, but Rick Steves Europe doesn't go to Malaysia. Okay. Matter of fact, I was saying I know very little about Malaysia as a country because we just don't get the feed. We don't get the education about Malaysia. But he told me they have nice people, good food, good golfing, good beaches. I mean, what's not to like? So he sold me on going to Kuala Lumpur. I'll go because also traveling today, Professor Schneider, it is so inexpensive. I go to Orbitz. I can go round trip to New Delhi for like $600 to $800. I mean, it's like next to nothing. If you shop right, you can go to all these cities around the world. I went to Italy a couple months ago and got the Italian experience before the coronavirus. And what a great country that place is. So undervalued. They have the best artwork in the world. Yet, it's affordable to go to. And we found out working at IBM TV, we can broadcast all over the world now. And the people come in. We're having a little bit of problems with certain places in Africa. South Africa, we have a whole show going on, no problem. But certain places have bandwidth issues. But the bandwidth is so much better than it was 20 years ago. Raina comes in real time right now. Roberto comes in real time right now. And I just see that the international opportunities are greater than before. And China, to me, just one country. Yeah, it's a big country, but India's big too.
Well, I'd put in a plug for Malaysia.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's a phenomenal country. I would also put in a plug for Vietnam. What a wonderful country. As an American who grew up during the Vietnam War, I went there and I thought, oh my gosh, it's just, when I think of Vietnam, I think of war. Well, they've moved on and they're just wonderful people. Poland is another very interesting country. Compared to Italy, of course, the demographics in Poland are much younger. But I mean, they're just thousands of opportunities out there. But you have to decide if you're willing to invest in skills and capabilities to deal with these frictions. And I think I'm maybe a little bit of a contrarian, but when everybody's saying anti-globalization, I'd step back and say, well, wait a minute. Let's actually think that through. The end of U.S.-China. Do I really believe that? I don't think so.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think so.
As we learned from COVID, you don't miss things until you miss them, which means everybody can say, "Oh, I don't like globalization" and so on, and then when things that you think you think necessary or you think that are part of your life aren't there anymore because they were produced outside from your country, then they will miss the globalization. So.
Yeah, I just don't see that U.S. and China may have some friction. It's also a very big trading partner with the United States right now. But I actually see that we will expand into other countries and do more trading with countries like India, Malaysia, Vietnam, and the countries you mentioned, Poland. I think that's going to expand rapidly. We're not going to be so dependent on China being the only source for manufacturing. I think,
you just because the leaders might not have been right. I mean, do we just completely say no China? We can't do that, can we, Professor Snyder? I mean, I'm not a proponent of China. There are my own personal reasons, but
I think your approach is right. I mean, we'd be stupid to ignore the frictions and the bases for the frictions and say, oh, I don't think you want to be, engaging in happy talk. Oh, it's just fine. There are no issues. There are issues. There's the virus, there's IP, there's trade, privacy issues. I mean, we're all, our country and the world's going to have to figure out what about 5G and Huawei's role. But okay, learn about those things, but then you need to decide what do you want to do.
let's
Can you
do
navigate?
a panel on just that talk. And if you're having those talks, please invite me, because those are the conversations that I just thrive on. This is good too, don't get me wrong. I mean, because this is going there, but we got to get past that and rebuild the world as a unity and figure out who we do speak with. How do we build the standards? The trust is not ever going to be there, I don't think. But we have to do business with them. We just can't cut them off the globe, can we, Nick?
I don't think so. They're not going to be cut off the globe. But I'll tell you that we beam into Hong Kong, but we have apparently a difficult time beaming into mainland China for whatever reason. So I don't know. But it is what it is.
You've got a fast-moving show. It's probably hard to monitor everything that's being said.
Well, that's
We
true.
don't monitor anything. We don't cut.
Yeah, well, we have 3-second delay, and I don't know if Ankit can delay things fast enough. But the
He's so
thing is,
good. Trust me, he's
he's
part
pretty
of
good.
these things. Yeah.
But we're supposed to stay away from politics and religion. I mean, that's part of what IBM told us: stay away from politics and religion. But it's kind of hard to stay away from politics all the time and religion all the time, because it affects everybody's country and every facet of our lives, unfortunately. But to the most part, we're trying to stay on positive task and what people can do working together to create an environment which would be better. I think on coronavirus, the good news on that, it kind of unites the world, because it's an enemy of everybody. In other words, not everybody's happy with getting a virus in their their country. So the thing is, we're kind of united globally to find treatments and vaccines for the coronavirus. But unfortunately, because of its danger, it also unites us globally in terms of a negative economic effect. And that's the real problem. And when we started the show several months ago, we saw two pandemics on the horizon. Pandemic number one was the virus itself. Then there was pandemic number two, which is the economic pandemic that takes place right afterwards and will last longer. I mean, I just don't see this thing going away if the virus goes away. And we're going to
add in one other answer to the question, Nicholas, that you asked me about the overall economic outlook. I think this future that we're going to have, the price of carbon is going to be really low. And I don't think it's coming back. I could be wrong, but that's one big economic change. That sector is really going to be under pressure. Coal, oil, gas, natural gas, fracking, all that stuff. It's going to affect certain countries big time. Nigeria, Middle East, Russia, U.S. So I think that's one mega trend to pay attention to with as we get into the next year, what recovers and what doesn't. I would put energy, carbon-based energy, in the category of not going to recover.
You're not going to recover. Okay. Yeah. So what about the airline industry? My travel plans, I was actually going back to Europe again. My wife and I, we love Rome. So I was going back to see Roberto. I was going to go back to Florence. I was actually going to fly into Milan. And then I had some travel plans to go to New York. I usually go there. Well, basically all my travel plans are on hold.
So is everyone. Everybody says
had to cancel a bunch of flights. What's going to happen to the airline?
You know that Alitalia, which is the Italian air carrier, is bankrupt for the 5th time in 20 years.
Really?
And every time we have a rescue Alitalia, the Italians have fly Italian, which I don't know what it means, other than learn 2 words to a hostess or steward. You need to fly Italian. Means, I mean, you don't get Italian food on a proper food on a flight. But in any case, it's a huge problem economically, because Alitalia is one of the biggest companies we have in Italy. And they basically, I read something, they basically have a loss every day. I mean, starting every day at shop opening, they lose something like 60 million euros.
Yeah.
So basically, they just open the shop and the 60 million euros are gone.
Yeah. Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway pulled out of all their airline stocks. They're completely gone. And I look at it and I'm going, how are they going to recover the airline industry? Because the way they made money is they packed everybody like sardines. And that's one reason I could fly cheap all over the place. I mean, very inexpensive.
You can get a private jet cheap, or go buy one of the big ones.
Yeah, I like Princess.
Goodnight went and bought Eastern Airlines when they went under, or Piedmont. He bought the whole fleet.
27s. Okay.
Problem is not buying the airplane. Problem is
maintaining it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I can buy a yacht. Everybody can buy basically a yacht.
Sure.
But big boats. Problem is that
maintain it.
It's a huge amount of money just to exit the harbor.
Now's the time to buy them, because in another few months, people are going to want to fly again.
Is the airline industry going to survive between now and the end of the year?
It's already down. Even though with all the loans and the grants that they were given, that wasn't enough to sustain them. What we did is we did not properly maintain like Malaysia, Hong Kong, all these people who did not have to shut down their whole system. They all, practiced proper procedures. They wore masks. They properly cleansed and sanitized their hands. They respected each other's distance, and they continued to operate. We didn't do that, so we're being punished.
Well, the thing is the airline industry going to be? No, it's between now and December 31st. How many remember the U.S. airline industry goes bankrupt a lot. They come back. Okay, how many airlines are going to go bankrupt between now and December 31st in the United States? Virgin Airlines has already been on record. I don't know if they filed bankruptcy or not. They've been going around the world looking for loans and grants or anywhere they can get money. But let's go look at some of the majors like United, Delta, American. I mean, these are big airlines, and they're flying Southwest. Yeah, in the United States, Southwest. I'm worried I'm going to lose all my frequent flyer miles. I got like hundreds of thousands. I'm going all my free companion tickets are going.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to cash back all the frequent flyer miles.
I know that.
That's how we're going to save ourselves.
I'm going to get a big loss on the airline industry. I only have stock in them right now, but are they even going to be around in any format between now and the end of the year?
I don't think we can answer that question.
Dr. Schneider, I need your crystal ball. Dr. Schneider. Here you go. I'm going to send this to you. So By the way, this is Paris, Eiffel Tower. You know,
It's still there. It's still there.
So I will weigh in on this. I think this is something that, I may know a little bit about. I was at the DOJ, the Department of Justice Antitrust Division, when the airlines were deregulated. That was a long, long time ago. And one of the things that we've learned since then, of course, is that the marginal cost of adding a passenger is very low. And the cost savings of, conversely, not having a passenger on the flight, you don't get very much benefit. So the prices can go really low if there's a cutthroat competition among the airlines. I would bet that demand's going to come back, but not enough to avoid massive excess capacity and bankruptcies, a lot of coats of paint on the planes, changing them from brand A to brand B. And then Boeing says they're going to renew production of their new jets. So I think we're going to face. I think Warren's right. I think the airline industry is not going to. It's going to be good for consumers, not good for investors.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And consumers become investors. Have we ever seen that happen before? We saw Southwest let their employees become the investors and family. I mean, can we?
Well, the unions and airlines are sort of like investors. They're major claimants on what's happening. But I mean, I could be wrong. You always look, crystal ball, you put it down here and maybe you're just navel gazing. But it just seems like there's so many people who've made investments in different ways to connect and do business. So I think the business travel is going to go way down. But I'll still want to go to Malaysia. I'll still want to go to Italy. So maybe I'll be able to move to the front of the plane and who knows?
Well, I was looking for first class tickets, so I was going, I'm not going to go economy anymore.
Private. I bet private is way to go now.
Yeah, it's very expensive. I mean, it's easier to get first class tickets than go private. But the thing is, the hospitality industry itself. I mean, even the hotel industry, and also Professor Schneider, the small colleges in the United States, they rely heavily on people that show up and have the small college experience. A lot of them were teetering anyway. Are these small colleges going to go under? In other words, there was a small college I taught in Atlanta called Oglethorpe University years ago. It's a beautiful building in downtown, but the total student enrollment is like 900 people, maybe 600. I mean, I don't know how they economically sustain themselves. Some of them do not have very large endowments, like the University of Tampa. Beautiful campus. If you're right across downtown Tampa, beautiful buildings, but the total endowment was like 10 million or 30 million. I mean, I was going, they don't have anything to survive on. What's going to happen with the small colleges around the United States?
That trend is of closures, and that's going to continue. I'm good friends with the president of Colby College, and Colby's been doing very well. I went there, so full disclosure, little college up in Maine, but I think they're going to be under enormous pressure. Mm-hmm. And remember how they got here, higher education, all these places that had decent brand names, they increased list price year after year, 2% above inflation for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Well, after you do that for a few years, it gets to be really an expensive list price. Mm-hmm. They play a lot of games with pricing. I don't mean that negatively, around how to offer scholarships and discounts and so on and so forth. But then just before crisis, as you pointed out, the pressure started to grow, and you saw the drop in the ability of schools without big endowments, probably defined as 750 million or greater,
Mhm.
just not being able to keep up. And they're now changing strategy and cutting price. And a lot of them, it's just too late.
Yeah, because the thing is, I did see several of them that were under a lot of financial pressure, and the sad part is the buildings are absolutely gorgeous in some of these small colleges. I was going, I would love to buy those colleges. The only problem is I don't know what I would do with them, except the buildings are nice. In other words, you pick up these beautiful buildings. Has Yale ever thought about an acquisition strategy? In other words, as these colleges fold, Yale just acquires them. Have they looked at that at all?
That's again, you're hitting so many topics that I've thought about and I'm so interested in. I think it's a great question, but you know how the educational game works. You know, each university wants to have a very small slice of students and have it be special and clubby and nichey and all that. The acquisition stuff doesn't seem to fit in. But I think some schools, maybe not the most elite, will try to do this,
Right.
and connect some of those slices in ways that allow for reductions in cost, extension of the brand, extension of the alumni base. Faculty and staff and current students may not like it, but
Mhm.
I think it's a great strategy, and I think there are going to be some that break away. And
Yeah,
do that.
I like satellite learning like that. I like the idea of satellite distribution of knowledge.
Yeah, Northeastern actually created satellite campuses in Seattle, San Francisco, and Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm going, are you kidding me? I mean, first of all, they're urban. They put them in urban, so it's an urban type environment, satellite campus. And I was thinking to myself, okay, you're in San Francisco. You're going to Northeastern University, which, by the way, is branded toward the northeast of the United States. San Francisco isn't even close to the northeast, but that's what they did. So they have a satellite in those three cities.
Well,
So
before I sign off, I'll just mention that Northeastern makes a whole lot more sense to me than Northwestern.
yeah, right. That's true. The country. Yes, right.
Absolutely.
Right. Oh, Dr. Ratner has joined us from.
I'll say goodbye.
All right, we'll see you,
Take
Professor.
care, Professor
Thanks.
Snyder. See you next week, I hope.
Yeah, we'll see you, Professor
Bye-bye.
Snyder. Thank you for coming. Okay. Dr. Ratner has joined us from either she's in the St. Paul, Minnesota, or maybe she's back in California. I don't know where you're at right now, Professor.
St. Paul.
Oh, you're in St. Paul, so you haven't decided to go back to the western parts of the United States yet, right?
I will eventually, but for right now, I am in Minneapolis. And guess what?
Yes.
It snowed this weekend.
Oh, Lord, what a surprise.
It's global warming now that we've cooled the earth, right? Now
Well-
it's global freezing. We're not global warming anymore.
Well, the problem,
Minnesota.
the problem with Dr. Ratner is also getting on a flight. We were just talking about that to Professor Schneider, he's the person who just left was the former dean at University of Chicago Business School and former dean at Yale, and now he teaches at Yale. And one of the problems is, of course, getting on a flight. In other words, how do you get on a flight? I don't know what the I don't know how you can get from St. Paul back to California, but Dr. Ratner will have to discuss that. Oh, David K. Johnson has joined us, but I think he's holed up in what city are you holed up in? Oh, your sound. You need to turn your sound on, Mike.
Your mic's disconnected. We're all getting tech savvy now that we're home all the time.
Yeah. No can hear.
Oh wait, that's because he muted when he took his.
Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Now I'm mute.
Turn the mute button. Mute button. We can't turn his mute button on, can we?
No, I can't do that one.
Oh, his mute button. Oh, anyway, he'll be back. But he's holed up in some. I think he's in Vermont or somewhere like that. Holed up there because same problem.
I think he's up near Rochester, isn't he?
I don't know. We'll ask him when he comes on. He was a former Pulitzer Prize winner, New York Times bestseller, by the way. So I got a couple of his books. I don't know if you've met him, but an interesting character. Anyway, he'll be on as soon as he gets his mic. Okay, so you're holed up in St. Paul, and I've been there, obviously. And introduce you to Rana. Rana is a PhD graduate in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, right? And Dr. Rackner is in works with physicians and financial advisors. That's like getting oil and vinegar to mix, which has got to be a very interesting challenge. And by the way, everybody loved your speech the other day, and I'm glad we did a special. I'm glad we were able to do a special on that. And I told Rana we need to do a special on Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Dr. Rackner, have you ever been to Malaysia? Before I step into it again, have you ever been to Malaysia or that part of the world?
I was in Thailand, Vietnam, but I would love to go to Malaysia. I actually operated in Bangkok. It was a fascinating experience.
Yeah. Okay. Because the thing is, some of the people have traveled. David, is your mic on now, or is your mic?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes. Right.
All right.
Right.
Sorry
Yes.
about that. I was trying to use my AirPods, and that didn't work.
Yeah. And what city are you holed in right now?
We live 5 blocks outside of Rochester, New York, in a little community called Brighton.
Yeah, right. And just to introduce you, Rana is in Kuala Lumpur. He's a PhD in Kuala Lumpur. Terry is in Salt Lake City, CPA out of Salt Lake. And Dr. Rackner is in St. Paul. And she's holed up in St. Paul because she can't get her flights back to California yet, which is an issue. And
you can't get any flights? The airlines are required to fly a minimum number of flights to get their subsidy.
I have a Midwest base and a West Coast base, so I'm here for now.
I see. Okay.
I'm just doing it. And David K. Johnson is a Pulitzer Prize winner, a New York Times bestseller, author of, I have it back here, Trump, The Making of Donald Trump, which is kind
among other books, yeah.
Among other books, yes. And I have this book I found out a long time ago called Perfectly Legal.
Do we get to blame him?
About Donald Trump, yeah.
Yeah.
We blame the election on David K. Johnson. He's the guy who got Donald.
Well,
Trump. Or you can
Donald said I tried to keep him from going to the White House, and I failed. And he's right, I failed.
Oh, okay.
No question about it.
Well, anyway,
most people are unaware, as I report in my book, that Donald was involved up to his eyeballs with an international drug trafficker he did favors for. And it's very clear that he was in the drug trafficking business. He just, like most of the people who put up the money, did not get charged. There are lots of wealthy Americans in that business. He put the life of his own grandnephew in jeopardy. The child was born with serious health defects, and he took away the health coverage in an effort to leverage relatives into giving him more money. And a judge had to intervene to save the child's life. And Trump's response to that was, well, what's wrong with what I did? I mean, these people, they were causing me problems. I mean, he's utterly immoral. And the only known case of cheating at Atlantic City Casino was at Trump Castle, which I documented back in 1992 in my book, Temples of Chance, which is about a third Trump. And
so he was actually
America Inc. bought out Murder Inc. to take over the casino business.
I'm sorry, I won't open the can of worms here.
He was in the pharmaceutical industry, and he's also in the gaming industry.
That would be the polite way to put it, Nick.
What? Pharmaceutical and gaming industry.
Right.
Okay, so he had involvements, but he's been involved in a lot of things. Now, as a leader to take on coronavirus, I think we had Ankit showed the report, okay, because we always like to look at demographics. Let me see if I can bring Ankit back and see. Oh, let's see. Oh, wait. I got too many people on. I got to strike one. I would strike myself if I could.
No, I'll strike my.
No, stay around.
Okay, I can go because a long time I stay with you. Thank you. It's a nice discussion.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
Raina, we want you back to do a special on Malaysia, specifically.